Hello dear students, as you all know we are doing chapter number 10, Wave Optics. Till now we have done 6th part of the lecture. Today we are going to do 7th, and today we are going to discuss diffraction of light. Diffraction of light. Diffraction. Okay. What is diffraction of light? Till now we have been told that light rays travels in a straight line. Light rays travels in a straight line. Suppose one obstacle is here. Okay. One obstacle is here of this shape. Okay, one obstacle is here. And here we have a screen, and light comes from infinity falling on the screen. What common thinking tells that? What common thinking tells that this light, since it has no obstruction, it will go in a straight line. These lights will be blocked. Okay, so what will happen? On the screen above this line, this all we have got light that will be bright, and from here till here it is geometrical shadow. Geometrical shadow. But what we observe, for a distance greater than a particular distance, which is called Fresnel distance, we'll talk about the distance later. For a distance greater than a particular distance, that is a df, what happens? The light which falls on the edges of the obstruction bend towards the geometrical shadow, and here we have the bright spot. Is it clear? The light which falls on the edge of the obstacle for a distance greater than, here the distance, let's see, it is d, it should be greater than df. Df is what? It is called Fresnel distance. Okay, it is called Fresnel distance. It is the distance between the obstacle and the screen. Okay, so for a distance greater than Fresnel distance, what we observe, the light falls on the edges of the obstacle, bends in the shadow region, and this bending of light is called diffraction of light. So light travels in a straight line. It is not a wrong thing, but what we observe, for a distance greater than a particular distance, which is called Fresnel distance, light bends towards the geometrical shadow, and this is called diffraction of light. Let me take another example. Suppose we have a source of light here, and here we have a narrow slit. Here we have a screen. Now what should be there? The source of light emits lights. So geometrically what we should have, from here till here we have light, above here shadow, and below from this point also shadow. But what we observe, for a distance again greater than Fresnel distance, this light bends towards the shadow region. This light bends towards the shadow region. So this bending of light is called diffraction of light. It could be understood with another example also. Let this be the source of light. Let this be the obstacle. Let this be the screen. What we observe, what it should be like. This region is geometrical shadow. Here we have light. Here also we have light. But what we observe again, for distance greater than Fresnel distance, what we observe, the light bends towards the shadow region. The light bends towards the shadow region through the edges of the obstacle, and this very thing is called diffraction. Let me show you a demonstration also so that you can understand. For this I have to arrange something. So wait. Okay. As you can see, I have made a room a bit dark. Only one light bulb is glowing now. Now just see if you are able to the shadow. Okay. The shadow of the marker somewhere this side. If you are able to see, there is a fine line. There is a fine line from this side. Let me show. Yes, now you are able to show? Yes, the shadow. If the distance between the marker and the board is less now what happens if I increase this distance, the shadow becomes blur. And now it goes like this. As you can see, almost the shadow is gone. What I have done, I have increased the distance between the obstacle and the screen. Now you can see on this board, there is on the shadow region also we have some light, and this bending of light is called diffraction of light. Let me show it once again. See the shadow, it is a fine line which describes where is the shadow, where is the bright light, where is the geometrical shadow. But if I increase the distance of the obstacle, which is the marker, and the screen, what we see, just see, the shadow becomes blur. And now what we have? A blur shadow. Light is bending towards the shadow region, and this is what the diffraction is. Okay, so diffraction is what? Diffraction is the bending of light towards the shadow region. Okay, the bending of light through the edges of the obstacle or through the narrow slits towards the geometrical shadow region. It is called diffraction of light. Okay, now we are going to understand the type of diffraction. There are two types of diffraction. There are two types of diffraction. One is called Fresnel diffraction, which we don't have to study. Another one is Fraunhofer diffraction, which we have to study. But we'll know what is Fresnel diffraction. We'll not let it go like that only. What is Fresnel diffraction? Let us understand. In Fresnel diffraction, the object, the source of light obviously, object or slit and the screen are close to each other. Okay, and there is no requirement of lenses to observe the pattern since they are very close to each other. Okay, and in Fraunhofer diffraction, what happens? The source, slit and the screen are at larger distances, and therefore lenses are required to observe the pattern. So we have to study Fraunhofer diffraction. We'll understand what is Fraunhofer diffraction. Okay, so this is the two type of diffraction: Fresnel diffraction and Fraunhofer diffraction. And what we have to study? We have to study Fraunhofer diffraction. And this diffraction is studied under the heading of single slit experiment. There are two headings: double slit experiment, single slit experiment. The double slit experiments we have already studied. It is an interference of light, Young's double slit experiment. Today we will study single slit experiment. So let us start single slit experiment. Single slit experiment. And what we are studying from of a diffraction. Okay. So what we do, we put a source of light. The source of light is of monochromatic source of light. The source of light is placed. The source of light is placed at the focus of a convex lens. What will happen? From the source of light, light will emit and falls on the convex lens. It will be like this, and then all the lights will become parallel to the principal axis. Now what we do, we put a slit. Okay, we put a slit. What we do, we put a slit over here like this. Some of the lights are blocked over here only. They will not pass through. This is our slit, and this is the width of the slit through which the light passes. Okay. So some of the lights will blocked over here due to the slit, but rest of the light will go through the slit. And if you put a convex lens over here, then what happens? If you put a convex lens over here, then what happens? This light will parallel to the principal axis, then they'll converge at the focus of the convex lens. And at the focus, what we do? We put a screen. Okay? We put a screen. Is it clear? Let me make it straight. We'll put a screen. Is it clear? So this is our screen. So what we observe, if in absence of diffraction, if no diffraction is there, then what we should observe, we should see a bright spot over here, because all the lights which are coming from the source, some of the lights are blocked over here due to the slit. Rest of the light which is passing through the slit, they'll converge over this point. So what we'll see, we see a bright spot at the center of the screen. Okay? But due to diffraction, what happens? Some of the lights bends towards the shadow region. Where is the shadow? Shadow is above O and below O. So what happens? Some of the lights bends through the shadow region and it goes somewhere there. And now they converge at some different. So this very point also we observe a bright light. Same happens below also, in the shadow region. So what we observe, above O there are some bright spots, below O there are some bright spots, and this is what the diffraction is all about. Okay. Now you have to understand one more thing. Since we are studying wave optics and we should understand the propagation of wave, with the help of wavefronts. Okay, so let us understand with the help of wavefronts how the wavefronts will be. Before the lens from the source, the wavefronts are spherical. The wavefronts will be like this. Okay, and after getting refracted from the lens, they will become parallel to each other. The wavefronts will be like this. Okay, then after, if they pass through the slit and going the straight line, the wavefronts will be like this. And if they are converging at point O, wavefronts will be like this. Is it clear? But for the diffraction, here the wavefronts will be like this, and then this. Is it clear? So before coming to the convex lens, wavefronts were spherical, then after they becomes plane, then after they becomes plane, after getting refracted from the lens, again they become spherical. Plane and then become spherical. So this is the diagram of single slit experiment. Now we have to understand the position and the intensity of light at the central maximum, at the other maximums, and where is the minimum, at what distance from the center the minimum will be formed. We have to understand this thing. One thing is clear from here, that at the center there will be bright spot. At the center there will be a bright spot, and this bright is called central bright, or it is called central maximum. It is called central bright or central maximum. At the center, central bright or central maximum will be formed. There is no issue, there is no doubt about it. Why is it so? Because the positioning of the lenses as we have done, at the center there will be a bright spot. Is it clear? Now we have to understand where is the minima, and this is called also central bright and central maximum that I have told. Okay. Now we have to understand where is the minima formed. Okay, where is the minima formed? And one more thing that I wanted to tell you, it is called central bright, and this is called secondary maximum. This bright is called secondary maximum. You can say it primary, but we don't say. Okay, for your understanding, you can say it for primary maximum. Other than this maximum, all the maximum which are formed, they are called secondary maximum. The first maximum from the center will be called first secondary maximum, then second secondary maximum, then third secondary maximum. In this way it is going to be like that. Minimum after the central maximum, first minima, second minima, third minima, it will go like this. Is it clear? So now we are going to understand the position. The one thing we have understood, that at the center it will be central maximum. Now we have to understand where the minimum are formed and where the maximums are formed. Okay, so let us go with that. Now we have to understand the first thing, position of first minimum. At the center, central maximum will be formed, but where the first minimum will be formed. Let us make the diagram to understand it. Suppose this is a slit, and the slit width I am going to take is small a. Okay, the small d we have taken in the interference just to differentiate the two concepts. I have taken it as small a. Let here be the screen, and let the center of the screen be O. Now, what we have to understand, we have to understand that where the first minimum is formed. Where the first minimum is formed. The study of diffraction is quite different from the study of interference. In the interference, first we derive the condition, then put the conditions of maximum and minimum in the position, in the general position. But here, what we do, we say that let a point P be there, let a point P be there, and at this very point, the first minimum is formed. Now we have to explain why the first minimum is formed over here. Now I am going to divide the slits into two halves. From here till here, from here till here. So this half will be, let me make it once again, from here till here it will be a by 2, from here till here it will be a by 2. Total is going to be a. From this point the light reaches to point P. Okay. From this point light reaches to P. Let me make it correct. Let me make it a bit far also, so that we can understand. Let me make the diagram over one second. Let this be a slit. Let this be a screen. Okay. I am dividing the slit into two halves. One is a by 2, another is again a by 2, and this is the center point, Okay, now we have decided to take a point P where the first minimum is formed. So let us understand why the first minimum is over there. Here it is. From here one wave is reaching at P, from here one wave is, from here one wave is at P. Now if we want to understand the position, let this angle be theta 1. And if this angle is theta 1, then all we know that if we draw a perpendicular to understand the path difference, then this is going to be the path difference P. And if this angle is theta 1, means this angle is theta 1, so this angle is going to be 90 minus theta. If this angle is theta 1, this angle is theta 1, so this angle is going to be 90 minus theta because these two lines are making perpendicular to each other. And this angle is 90 minus theta 1, so this angle is going to be what? So this angle is theta 1, so this angle is going to be what? 90 minus theta 1 because these two lines are perpendicular to each other. Then this is angle 90 minus theta 1, here it is a right angle triangle. It is 90 minus theta 1, so this angle is going to be theta 1. Okay? Now, what we have to do? We have to make minimum over P. We will start from this point. The wave will go like this. And if we want that minimum is formed over here, so what we will see that the intensity of this wave will be cancelled by the another wave. So what we do, the another wave will go from this point, it will go like this. Now just see, the path difference between this wave and this wave is this much. The path difference between this wave and this wave is this much. And this is what? For a wave diagram, this complete length of the wave is called lambda. This is what? Lambda by 2. So this path difference is equal to what? Lambda by 2. And this wave intensity should be cancelled by another one. So now another wave will be made like this. It will go like this. Is it clear? So now this path difference, just see, it is completely that P is equal to what? Lambda. Now, just try to understand that I have divided slits into two parts. The wave from the part, the first point of the upper half is cancelled by the, means intensity of wave is cancelled by the first wave of the lower half part. In the same manner, the last wave of the lower half part is cancelled by the last wave of the upper half part is cancelled by the last wave of lower half part. So for each point here, there will be a point in this half. For each point in the above half, there will be a point. There will be a corresponding point in the lower half, such that the path difference between 2 points, the wave emitting from those 2 points, will be lambda by 2. And whenever the path difference is lambda by 2, then what happens? Just see here and here. This wave, when it is traveling in crust, this wave is going in trough. This wave already have traveled this much. Now this wave is going in crust, this is going in trough. When this is going in trough, it is going in crust. So they'll meet at this point P in opposite phases and they'll cancel the intensity of each other. Same happens between these two waves. Now this wave has this much traveled, it has traveled lambda by 2. This wave has traveled a lambda by 2 complete lambda. The path difference between these two waves is this much, and this much goes again lambda by 2. Now this wave is traveling in trough, this wave is traveling in crust, this wave traveling in crust, this wave travels in trough. They will meet in opposite phases and they cancel the intensity of each other. Now what happens at P? We are going to have minimum. Is it clear? If this distance, if we consider it as x1, okay, so in this right angle triangle, what we can write? We can write Suppose this point is C, center. Then the right angle triangle COP, what we can write? Sin theta 1 is equal to perpendicular, that is your x1, upon base, that is your OC, and OC is equal to what? This particular distance perpendicular upon hypotenuse. Hypotenuse is what? CP. But this x1 is very small. Since x1 is very small and angle theta 1 is also very small, so what we can write? Sin theta 1, we can write theta 1 only, x1 upon CP can be written as, since this distance is very small, this hypotenuse will be equal to the base only. It will be equal to capital D. Okay? So from here, if we calculate the value of theta 1, so we are going to have x1 upon D. Moreover, to see in this right angle triangle, the bigger one, this right angle triangle, this sin theta 1 can be taken as perpendicular upon hypotenuse. Perpendicular is equal to P, P is equal to lambda. The same sin theta 1 can be written as lambda upon and this very distance. And this very distance is equal to A. So is equal to A. So this can be written as lambda upon A also. Now if we take theta 1 and lambda by A, what we are going to have? Theta 1 is equal to lambda by A, which implies that the angular position of first minimum is lambda by A. Lambda is the wavelength, A is the width of the slit. Moreover, if we want to calculate the value of x1, so what we are going to have, x1 is equal to lambda d upon A. This is the linear position of first minimum with respect to center of the screen. Are you able to understand? Theta 1 is the angular position. See, this is the center, and at the angle of theta 1 the first minimum is formed. So this tells us about the angular position, and at what distance from the center the first minimum is formed. It is told by x1. x1 is equal to lambda d by A. Is it clear? So this is what this is where the first minimum will be formed. For the first minimum, we have divided the slits into two halves. For the second minimum, the slits will be splitted in four parts. Okay? Each will be A by 4, A by 4, A by 4, A by 4. So what will be the change? Let us understand. Now we are going to understand the position of second minimum. Okay? Now the slit will be the slit width, which is small a. It is divided into four parts. The first part will be A by 4. Second one will be A by 4. Third one is also A by 4. Fourth one is also A by 4. From each point, wave travels to a point P. Now what we have to understand, at P the second minimum is formed. So let us draw the path difference first of all. So this will be the path difference. From here till here, it is the path difference which is equal to P. Now we have to form minimum. For minimum, how the wave will be, let us see. The first wave will go from here. Since we have to form a minimum over there, so we'll take the path difference as lambda by 2. So this varies lambda by 2. Now this is going to be complete lambda. Now this is going to be lambda, complete lambda, lambda by 2, it means 3 lambda by 2. And this is complete 2 lambda. One wave, another wave, 2 lambda. Now what happens is, see, this wave intensity will be cancelled by this wave, because the path difference is lambda by 2. When this wave travels in crust, this wave travels in trough, they will meet in opposite phase there. Same happens with these two, same happens with these two, same happens with these two. Means for each point of first 1 by 4 will be cancelled by the second 1 by 4, and for each point of third 1 by 4 will be cancelled by the four part of the slit. Is it clear? Since each point acting as a fresh source of light, as we have studied in Huygens principle, so for each point there will be a point in the second 1 by 4. The intensity will be cancelled each other because the path difference is lambda by 2 only. For the third 1 by 4, for each point there will be a point in the fourth, so that the path difference between them will be lambda by 2 and the intensity will be cancelled to each other. So now let us define the angles and let us understand the positions also. If this very angle is theta 2, already we have discussed that this angle is also theta 2. Okay, so if we apply the same logic we have done in the previous one, then sine theta 2 in this bigger triangle, let this point be C, and already we have done this perpendicular, that is your x2 upon hypotenuse, and this hypotenuse is approximately equal to d only. This time I am going to write directly the x2 upon d. Since angle is very small, sine theta 2 can be written as theta 2 only. It will be x2 upon d. Moreover, in this triangle, bigger one, this sine theta 2 is equal to 2 lambda, because this p is equal to 2 lambda this time, 2 lambda upon a. So this can also be written as 2 lambda by a, 2 lambda by a. So if we consider this and this, what we are going to have, theta 2 is equal to 2 lambda by a. This is your angular position. And if we consider this and this, then we are going to have x2 is equal to 2 lambda capital D upon a. This is the linear position of second minimum. Similarly, for the third minimum, we have to split the slit into 6 parts. Means we have to split the slits into even numbers. For the first, we have split it in 2 parts. For the second, we have split it in 4 parts. For the third, we are going to split it in 6 parts. For the fourth, 8 parts. For the fifth, 10 parts. It will go like this only. And if you understand the pattern also, then theta 1 was equal to lambda by a, and x1 is equal to lambda d by a. In the same manner, that theta 2 comes out to be 2 lambda by a, and x2 is equal to 2 lambda d by d. So for the third, it will be similarly theta 3 will be equal to 3 lambda by a, and x3 will be equal to 3 lambda d by a. If we keep on doing this thing, then nth minimum will be formed. Theta n is equal to n lambda by a, because for the one it was 1, for the second it was 2, for the third it is 3, then for the nth it is n, and xn will be equal to n lambda d by a. So this tells us about angular position or linear position, and this tells us about angular position. Is it clear? So this is how the position of second minima, third minima, fourth minima is being calculated. Now let us understand the position of first secondary maximum, but we'll do it in the next lecture. Okay? Okay, let us understand the position of first secondary maximum. As I have told you already, that the central bright is your primary, and other than all central bright, all the maximum will be secondary maximum. The first secondary maximum, where it will be formed, we'll try to understand. For the minimum, when we were discussing, what we have done, we have divided this slit into even parts. But this time we are going to do it in odd parts. For the maximum, it is split. The slit is splitted. The slit is broken into odd numbers. First, we are going to split into 3 parts. Okay. So from here till here, it is a by 3. From here till here is a by 3. From here till here it is a by 3. This is your central maximum O. From here one point P, let the point be P. At P we are going to our first secondary maximum. From here the light reaches to P. From here the light reaches to P. And from here also the light reaches to P. Now what happens? We have to form a maximum over there. So what we do? First of all, we will draw the path difference line. So this will be your path difference. This will be your path difference P. Let us understand the wave. The first wave will go like this. What we have to do? We have to make a maximum over there. We will take a path difference of lambda by 2. This wave, the intensity will be cancelled by this wave. Again the path difference is lambda by 2. This wave will go like this. And the last wave will go like this. That's it clear? So now what happens, just try to understand. The first part of the first one third and the wave from the second one third, first point, they'll cancel each other. Means for each point in the first one third, there is a point on the second one third, such that the path difference between those 2 points will be lambda by 2. And because of this path difference, the intensity of first one third will be cancelled by second one third. And what we are going to have? We are going to have the wave from the third one third. And this third one third will not be cancelled out, and we are going to have light at P. Once again, for each point in the first one third, there is a point in the second one third, such that the waves emitting from those 2 points having path difference lambda by 2, and therefore the intensities of these 2 one thirds, means from one third, first one third and second one third, are cancelled over at P, and we are going to have light from the third one third. Means only one third of the part of the slit the light will reach at P, and because of this light we are going to have a maximum over there. So again, with the same logic, if this angle is theta 1 dash, this angle is also going to be theta 1 dash. This is path difference and it is equal to 3 lambda by 2. As you can see, this is complete lambda, this is 1 by 2 lambda, added 3 lambda by 2. And if we apply the same logics, so what we are going to have? We are going to have sine theta 1 dash is equal to, let this be x1 dash. x1 dash upon capital D I have written directly, and for this smaller triangle we have 3 lambda by 2, which is our path difference upon this very distance, it is A. Now this angle is very small, this will become theta 1 theta dash only, so theta 1 dash is equal to x1 dash upon D is equal to 3 lambda upon 2A. If we consider this and this, we are going to have the value of theta 1 dash, it is 3 lambda by 2A. And if we consider this and this, so we are going to have x1 dash, it is equal to 3 lambda capital D by 2A. So this tells us about angular position of the first secondary maximum, and this tells us about the linear position of first secondary maximum. For the second secondary maximum, the slit is divided into 5 parts. First 1/4 will be cancelled by second 1/4, third 1/4 will be cancelled by fourth 1/4, only the light from the 1/5 part will reach at P. And what we are going to have? A maximum at P. What will be changed? In place of 3 lambda by 2, since we have broken in 3 parts, it will be 5 lambda by 2. So only the change will be for the second. Similarly, the angular position of second maximum is given by x2 dash is equal to 5 lambda upon 2A, and the linear position is given as 5 lambda d upon 2A. And if you keep on doing this thing, for the first it is 3 lambda by 2A, for the second it is 5 lambda by 2A, for the third, for the fourth, for the fifth, then for the nth, theta and dash will be equal to 2n plus 1 lambda upon 2a, and for xn dash it will be equal to 2n plus 1 lambda dy 2a. If you put n is equal to 1, we are going to have 3 lambda by 2a. Let's see, 1 plus 2 it will be 3. If you put n is equal to 2, it will be 5 lambda by 2a. It will go like this. So this is how the interference, this is how the diffraction is formed. Okay, in the next video lecture, till now we have done till now. In the next video lecture we are going to do this intensity distribution curve in the diffraction pattern, and we are going to discuss the main differences between interference and diffraction. So this is all for today. Hope you are doing. And one more thing, today or most probably tomorrow, all the pending lectures notes will be uploaded in the description link. You must check in the description link of previous parts. I have not uploaded 2 parts or 3 parts of the notes of the video lecture. So today or most probably tomorrow, the notes will be updated in the description link. So this is all for today. Thank you.